So in this section, we want to solve using the quadratic formula. So we have the equation, or quadratic equation, and our quadratic formula is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2a, which we derived at the end of the last video by completing the square. So if you haven't watched that one and you want to see how you come up with the quadratic formula, you can go back to it. So to solve using the quadratic formula, you just need to identify a, b, and c. It has to have the right-hand side 0, just like on factoring. You want the right-hand side to be 0. The only time you don't want the right-hand side to be 0 is when you complete the square. And then you identify a, b, and c, and then you plug them in and solve. So for this one, a is in front of a squared term, which would be 1. b is our linear term, our first degree term, which would be 5. And c is our constant, which is 6. So plug it into the quadratic formula. I do negative b, so negative 5 plus or minus the square root of b squared, so 5 squared, minus 4 times a is 1 times c is 6, all divided by 2 times a is 1. So simplify this. Got negative 5 plus or minus the square root of, this is 25. Another color. 5 squared is 25. Let me just do it here. 25. And minus 4 times 6 is 24. So 25 minus 24 is 1. So we got the square root of 1. All divided by 2 times 1 is 2. So I've got negative 5 plus or minus 1 divided by 2. Since the square root of 1 is 1. So I've got x is negative 5 plus 1 divided by 2. Negative 5 plus 1 is negative 4. Divided by 2 is negative 2. Or I've got x is negative 5 minus 1 divided by 2, which is negative 6 divided by 2, which is negative 3. And again, you can check this. If you plug in negative 2, plug in negative 3, it will work. If it factors, sometimes they won't factor and you have to use like quadratic formula to complete the square, but if it'll factor, you could check by factoring. This will factor into x plus 3 times x plus 2, so your answer is negative 2 and negative 3. So you can kind of check that way to see if you get the same answer twice if you want to use another method, or just plug it in and check. Either way. So for our next one here, again, you want the right hand side to be 0 because we want it to look like this. So I'm going to add 3x and subtract 7 to both sides to make the right hand side 0. So then a is 1, b is 3, and c is negative 7. So plug all that in. Negative b, so I've got negative 3 plus or minus the square root of b squared, so 3 squared, minus 4 times a is 1, times c is negative 7, all divided by 2 times a is 1. So again, for this, 3 squared is 9. You got negative 4 times 1 is negative 4 times negative 7 is positive 28. So 9 plus 28 is 37. So I've got negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 37 divided by 2. And you can leave the answer that way. Again, you don't have to do a decimal. You can just leave it alone. It's not very pretty, but that's okay. And for this last one here, again, you want the right-hand side to be 0. So I'm going to subtract b squared. So I've got 5b squared. I'm going to subtract b. 5b minus b is 4b. Negative 4 minus 1, if I subtract 1, is negative 5, is equal to 0. And I know this has got b, and we're using b too, but we'll just keep going with b, because a, b, and c is what you generally see. So This b is equal to 4 is talking about this, not the answer. So plug all that in. So this time we've got b is equal to negative b again, meaning this term in front of your b. Negative b, so negative 4, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so 4 squared, minus 4 times a is 5, times c is negative 5. All divided by 2 times a is 5. So I've got negative 4 plus or minus the square root of, for this one, 4 squared 16. Negative 4 times 5 times negative 5 is going to be a positive. You've got 25 times 4 is 100. So 16 plus 100 is 116. Divided by 2 times 5 is 10. Again, you don't have to do the decimal. You should try to simplify the radical if it will simplify. 116 is equal to, the perfect square in 116 is 4, so 4 times 29. So we would have negative 4 plus or minus, the square root of 4 is 2, so 2 square root of 29 is left, all divided by 10. And the reason you simplify this is because then you can simplify 4 and 10 and 2. They all have 2's in them. So negative 4 over 10 simplifies to, if you take out a 2, this is a 5, this is a 2, that's a 1. So you actually have negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 29, all divided by 5 is the reduced answer. So that would be the final answer, and you can leave in that form. If you stopped here, it's still correct, but you can simplify it, so this would be the simplified correct answer.